Hi, this is George Kattouf for AgelessTimeless.com, where we try to answer the question, what do you expect for someone my age? Our response, excellence. We try to interview individuals over the age of 50 or those that contribute to the individuals over the age of 50 to ensure that we're doing everything possible to maximize our health potential. Because remember, your body is a temple. Okay, today I'm very proud and pleased to have the opportunity to interview a gentleman who has been in pursuit of strength from the age of 10. And he's never stopped, and approaching 70 now, and he's still working on trying to maximize his overall strength potential. I first became interested in this gentleman when he was 56, and he was on ESPN's Strongest Man competition, and I was amazed at what he was able to do. And since that time, we've had a number of times to speak, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing him. He's been named Hawaii's most strongest man 3 times. He played football for Western Maryland College and was named all-conference defensive tackle. He's been the strongest man in America, named that, engaged in a number of master's activities in powerlifting and won those. And in addition now, continues to maximize his strength by being involved with Moss Wrestling, and he'll explain what that is. So overall, it's a pleasure to have a gentleman whose name is synonymous with strength, and that's Ode Haugen. Ode, great to have you today.
Hey, thanks. A real pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. So why don't you tell us, you're from originally from Tingvoll, Norway, how this all started, this strength expedition of yours?
Well, I was born in Tingvoll, but I don't consider myself from there. I'm from Sunndal, which is not too far from Tingvoll, but I grew up there and started at the age of about 10 years old, lifting weights, trying to find weights to lift, basically.
And that's an interesting story because you had no weights to lift.
No, there were none in my entire town. I don't think anybody hardly ever heard of it. So I don't know how. I guess I saw magazines in the newsstands, and I started. I must have seen it because I was very determined on getting them, and I started making my own out of wood initially. And then I was able to start saving up money and buying dumbbells and also buying plates and having a bar made and so forth.
And I think you even built your own bench press. Is that correct?
Yes, I built a multi-use bench. One with where you could do flat bench, you could do incline on, and so forth. That was in shop. I think I was probably around 11, 12 years old.
Well, it paid off because you became Mr. Norway. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was quite a bit after that, of course. First time I actually competed, or I started working out in a commercial gym, which when I moved away from home to go to high school or prep school or whatever they call it, and then started working out in the gym where there were other like-minded people, and that was at the age of 16. And at the age of 17, I competed in my first bodybuilding contest, which was the Junior Mr. Norway, and I got 3rd place. And really bit the bug at that point. And I also, at that time, competed in Olympic lifting and won my age group in Olympic lifting. I also competed in Mr. Scandinavia, Junior Mr. Scandinavia, the same year, and got 2nd there. So, but after that, in the next year, I won the Junior Mr. Norway, and then went to America for a year as an exchange student in high school. When I came back, I won the seniors in Norway and placed second in Scandinavia again.
When you came to the United States, I know that you went to high school for a year, went back to Norway, competed, won, but then you came back to go to college and got your degree in exercise science. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, I had to go back to Norway. I couldn't go directly from high school here. And technically, I should have been back for 2 years, but I was able to get back in 1 year. And I essentially just, found some colleges that were offering me scholarships. So I went to the one I thought would fit me best, which was at the time Western Maryland College. The other colleges that offered me scholarships were not co-ed; they were men's colleges, and I thought that was a very bad idea. So I chose Western Maryland because it was co-ed, basically. But it was a good school. It's a good school, a lot of athletics and stuff like that. But I came there. But when I came, I really was more focused on bodybuilding than I was on the sports because I just won Mr. Norway and I wanted to continue that. But training facilities were very poor in Westminster, Maryland at the time. There were college didn't have any really. The weight room was like nothing, and somebody saw me walking around the campus, I guess, and said, "Hey, you got to just try to play football." And I said, "Well, I really want to just lift weights, but maybe I'll try it." So that's how it started.
So you just try to play football and you end up becoming a defensive tackle, and then you're named all conference. Is that how that worked?
Yeah, not defensive tackle. I was defensive end, playing more like a linebacker, defensive end. Initially, they put me in. This is kind of a funny story because I was so strong and I was very fast and very strong. But first of all, they thought I was just strong. I don't think they knew that I was fast. But they put me in the middle guard, in defense, which sounds like a really simple position to be in. If you are strong, you just go in there and you knock people down. The reality is that's probably one of the most complex things you can do because you really have to have a lot of experience, I think, to play well in that position. Because like for me, it was like a disaster. I have no idea what the hell happened around me and just get mowed down, basically. So that didn't work out very well. So the first season was not a very good season. I don't know when they moved me to defensive end, but maybe at the end of the season or the next year. Played 2 more years, and then I was on the outside as a kind of linebacker, defensive end, because I was also one of the fastest guys on the team. So, and the biggest and fastest. So it was a good position for me. I could kind of see what was developing a little bit more because my football IQ wasn't that high, obviously, because I had not played it growing up with it or seen it before.
And you're not a small man either to be the fastest guy on the team. Right now you're 6'3". From the last time we talked, at about 280. Is that about right?
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it down a little bit, so I'm down to about 265, 270.
Oh, so I know that you had a little stint in the pros, Washington Redskins and San Francisco 49ers, but some injuries plagued you, and so you couldn't pursue that career after that. But if I'm correct, you had a brief period of time where you kind of put everything aside. You didn't work out at all. Is that correct?
Well, I worked. I didn't do it as consistent as I used to be. For a period of time where I was working so much that I didn't have much time. I may get in the gym once or twice a week, and then played a lot of tennis. And I thought I was keeping in shape, but really, it really tells you that if you don't focus on getting better, you usually get worse, and that's what happened.
So to go back to where we were, you had an epiphany at one day. You weren't training like you normally did, and you decided to start pursuing weight training again when you were in your 30s. Is that correct?
Yeah, it wasn't. I wasn't really. It wasn't like I had an epiphany. It just seemed like every time I try to go back. I was trying to go back 6 days a week. I tried to start where I left off. This was 6 times a week, split sessions, and everything I did that, life got in the way. And I really learned a big lessons, and I think it's a lesson for everyone to learn is that, hey, start easy, move slowly, and not try to do it all in one time. And the epiphany was really that when I, having tried many times to get going again, I really was motivated to start getting going again because my waist had grown from 30 inches to 36 inches. 36 inches is not so bad for a 6'3", 6'4" guy, but to me it was like devastating because I was used to having 29, 30-inch waist, and but I tried to go back to so fast. So I finally made the commitment to myself that, hey, I'm going to do this 3 times a week. I did a 2 days upper body, lower body type split, and I was doing it twice a week, and I just rotating through it. And I did this and I said, I'm going to do this no matter how excited I get, and I want to do a fourth workout. I will not do it. I was only going to do 3 times a week. And I think I did this for about 6 months or so, and then started going to maybe 4 days a week. And in a year, I changed, going from a body weight of 218 and a waist size of 36, like I said, back to a more decent body weight of 242 and a waist size of about 32. I never ever make it back to the 30-inch waist.
So now you became a power lifter, if I'm correct. You competed.
Not for a long time. I actually, for probably over 10 years or more, I was just training, and I was. Not too long after I got to really go started again. A couple of years after that, I got into the gym business. Started building up some Gold's gyms and doing it. But basically, I was very busy doing that as well as I did real estate. So I was still very busy. But I never missed workout. Workout became a center in my existence, but I worked out not like powerlifting. I was basically a bodybuilder. I call it functional bodybuilding because I did explosive stuff. I wasn't just pumping up, but I was doing doing bodybuilding in a functional way. And only like in my early mid 40s did I, like 10 years after getting going again, did I start getting into powerlifting.
And would you describe what functional bodybuilding would be? What would that?
Well, like besides just doing leg workout, I would be doing explosive squats and so forth. For overhead, I would not only be doing easy press behind neck and dumbbell press stuff like that. I would be doing power jerks and stuff like that. So I tried to always. Whatever I did, I felt like I had to be able to perform with the muscles I had. In other words, create functionality over just having muscle size and strength.
I see. So this career, where is it taking you? You became a power lifter, and you became an AAU champion power lifter. But how did you get involved in then the strength aspect where you were doing strongman competitions?
Well, like I was doing, training, and I started getting involved in the powerlifting and started competing in some masters competitions in powerlifting in my mid 40s. And in Hawaii, at that point, I was living in Hawaii and had a couple of gyms there, the Gold's gyms, and I had one of the athletes. I just happened to be at one of the Hawaii Strongest Men competitions, and one of the athletes from my gym, bodybuilder, very very strong guy, Curtis Leffler. He was competing, but it was the first time he was competing, and he's competing against some guys that had been doing this for a couple of years. They knew the event a little bit more. They were almost all powerlifters. Back then, there weren't anybody just doing strongman, and I could tell he was very strong, and I knew he was very strong because I'd seen train with him once in a while in the gym and so forth like that, or I saw him mostly because he was spending a lot of time training. He was very good, and so I said, wait a minute, I better go and help him because he didn't look like he didn't know what he was doing. He was very strong, but not very good at adapting to the. So I started helping him, and I helped him through the entire competition, and he won the competition.
Wow.
Then, so the following year, because there wasn't a lot of strongman competition, when it was getting close, he came to me and asked if I could help him prepare for it. So I helped him prepare for the competition. And then then when I was watching the competition that year, I said, wait a minute, I can do this. So the following year, I jumped in and competed as well. So Curtis Love won the competition 3 times, for How I Strong Man 3 times. And the third time he won it, that's the time I was competing, and I got 4th place, I think, first time I tried it out. And at this time, I was probably 40, this would have been probably 96 probably, so I was probably about 46 years old.
And then, though, at some point you started winning these competitions.
Yeah, yes, and I started competing more. There were more competitions happening around the country and stuff like that. And whenever I could, I went to compete. And in 1999, I won the America's Strongest Man competition.
And you were named 3 times Mr. Hawaii as far as strongest man?
I won, and I won that competition 3 times also.
Yes.
Yes. 3 years in a row.
My first affiliation with you was when I saw you on ESPN, and you were performing World's Strongest Men. That's the highest level that you can be in, at least from my perspective. And yet you were the oldest competitor. I don't know if you are, in fact, the oldest competitor that has ever been involved in World's Strongest Man, but I was impressed. How did that all come about?
Well, yeah, with the contest you're referring to was my last time I competed. It was in the World's Strongest Man. I was at age 56, and that's that I was the oldest ever competed. I competed the first time at I think 51, the second time at 52, and then at 56 years old. And I should have competed back in my 40s because I qualified, but for some reason they wouldn't take it. They didn't invite me. But by the time I was like in my 50s, they couldn't deny it. I was beating the guys that were in it, and I was very competitive on the European circuit. And as a matter of fact, in 2002. There were a number of people competing for getting the invites, and I was head on with Big C or Syndronas Savikis. He was a young man at the time. Now he's a grand old man in the sport, but anyway, back then he's a young man that had competed for many years. And during that season leading up to the World's Strongest Men in 2002, we competed against each other 4 times, and I beat him twice, and he beat me twice. And then we ended up in the same heat at the World's Strongest Man. And I got injured halfway through the heat, and he ended up second in the heat and made it to the finals. And in the finals, he got second. So that was sort of the start. And then the following year, he wins the Arnolds, and thereafter, he wins everything. He's probably the strongest man that ever lived, in my opinion.
And who was that again, please?
Syndronas Savikis from Lithuania. He's won the Arnolds, I think, 8 times, or not 7 or 8 times, which is the heaviest contest in the world. He had a silver medal when he was 20 or 21 years. Back in his early 20s, he had a silver medal in the IPF World Championship in powerlifting as well. And it's just unbelievable strength and durability. He's competing. I think he's still going to come back and compete this year, and he's been competing since like 1998 was his first international competition, and he now, of course, compete more in masters. The masters have become fairly big also, but he's still competitive. He would still place in today would place in the open competition.
As far as your birthdays, you have a special way of celebrating them, and you tie it in around strength. Could you explain to us exactly what you have done? For example, when you were 65, I know that you did something that was a phenomenal feat of strength, per se.
Yeah, I've done it on every birthday, but like at age 50, I did like a 30-meter or 100-foot yoke race with an 8:07. And I think at the time, the best time was like a little under 20 seconds, and I did it in 18 seconds. So unofficial world record for a momentarily official world record at the time. It was 800 pounds on my back. That was at age 50. But like you said, at the age 65, I trained very hard and was very prepared and went and did the inch dumbbell, the unliftable, supposedly unliftable dumbbell. And I deadlifted it 65 times in a little over 5 minutes. I think it was 5 minutes and 23 seconds.
Was that a Guinness record?
Yes. Nobody had lifted it more than 37 times, I think, before that.
And that dumbbell is not a typical dumbbell. How wide of a grip is that?
Well, the diameter of the dumbbell grip is 2 3/8 inches, so almost 2.5 inches. And the dumbbell is, just a solid lump, basically, The big part is that it rolls out of your hand. There's very few people really, just amazing to me, but there's very few people that can lift it.
Can you show us those hands?
Much.
Yeah, there they are. Okay.
Yeah. The size of the hands helps a bit. Maybe mine are specifically good for the particular dumbbell, but I don't get around that dumbbell any more than probably a normal sized person. Always they say, "Oh, I can't get my hand around it," but I can show them. I can't get my hand around it any more than the typical person because my hands are thick. So they don't. There's a big gap between my fingers. Like when I hold it on the dumbbell like that, my hands are about here. They're not like this. They're like here. I can't get any further. But everybody thinks it's a trick, but it's not a trick at all. I mean, you just have to be strong to do it. And your size of your hand shouldn't matter. I've seen people with much smaller hands than me do it, lift it. And see people with a lot bigger hands, they can't move it. I have tons of people tried. We have had the dumbbell at lots of trade shows and so forth. And I've had some really big celebrity athletes try to lift it that are, have very big hands, and really, if they were strong, they should be easily lifted, but they couldn't lift it.
And how much does that weigh?
172 pounds.
Okay. So what keeps you going? Why do you continue to challenge yourself? I know you've had some injuries that you've had to deal with, hip replacements, but you continue to strive to get stronger. You told me when we last talked that you're as strong now as most young people. How do you do it, and why do you do it?
Well, what's the alternative? You ain't gonna, it's not, you're not going to get reborn again. You better keep what you have, or you're losing it very quickly. The alternative is to die faster, basically, or diminish or go away faster. I plan to go away kicking and screaming.
So, what is your diet like and your exercise routine like?
My diet relatively simple. I have oatmeal. For breakfast, oatmeal and fruit, and I always have either, I have most, I would say 80-90% of the time I'll have berries in my oatmeal. Oatmeal is made with milk, so it's a high protein oatmeal. I also have orange juice and in conjunction with that. Lunch is usually simple with a couple of sandwiches, small open face sandwiches. Going back to the Scandinavian way of eating open face sandwiches with a glass of milk or orange juice. And in between meals, I usually eat fruit. I eat a lot of fruit. I'm in California, so it's very easy to have a lot of fresh fruit. Light dinner, high protein, and that's about it. Just now, I mean, I used to eat to gain weight. Spend most of my life trying to eat to gain weight, and now I'm eating to just do either maintain or try to even drop a little bit of weight. So it's a little different. My training routine is I try to work out at least 4 to 5 times a week. I mean, the routine may, if I got everything in the days that I had scheduled to work out, I would probably only work out 4 times. But if I don't, I end up doing extra time. I'm in the training almost very often, 6 or 7 days every week anyway, so I end up doing something.
Is your training primarily with weights, or are you picking up stones and doing the feats of strength movements, or is it primarily free weights?
I would say primarily weights. Do some mass wrestling. Do a lot of. I incorporate more grip-oriented training in my training now. Not specific grip training so much as I incorporate using the grip and everything, because the sports I'm competing in is either mass wrestling, or primarily I'm competing in arm lifting, which is basically deadlifting weight with difficult grip. Whether it's a Saxon bar or a Polon's axle or a rolling thunder, rolling handles, or other grip devices like that. So I incorporate that type of thing on my training. But my training is basically to be generally staying strong, and that may involve lifting a rock every so or a log or so forth as well.
You talked about moss wrestling. You're a big proponent of that now. Can you explain what that is?
Well, it is a combat sport. It's more of a strength version of wrestling as opposed to wrestling. Wrestling is a strength. You have a lot of strength, endurance, strength. Moss wrestling is more of the immediate, explosive and explosive strength, because if the matches doesn't last very long, you end up, going very fast. But anyway, the sport is involved in two people sitting down on the floor, and you have a board between you, a moss wrestling board between you, which is about 2 meters long, and you hold on to a stick, and you try to pull the other person over or pull the stick out of their hand. So there's a lot of technique. In its basically sit down, pull as hard as you can, and strongest person win. More advanced version of it obviously would involve manipulating the stick and moving on the board, because you have 2 meters. You start in the middle, but you can move to the sides and do anything to tip the other person over. grapplers and wrestlers do really well right off the bat because they already have the feeling for how to use the other person's weight and strength. But it's really a strength sport because it only takes from seconds to, you know, if you go over a minute, you're wiped out basically because it's 100% pull.
Is this becoming more popular in the United States?
Yeah, we have been doing enough for like since it was good like 6 years we've been doing it. So it has been growing, but it's a grassroots type of thing, and there are hundreds of boards out in different gyms and CrossFit centers around the country, and the sport is growing international. I think we're over 50 member nations now, and this year we don't have a world championship. We have World Cup, and we will send a team to Poland for the finals of the World Cup. We didn't compete in the first two parts of the World Cup because it becomes too expensive, but we are sending a team to the finals in Poland in November. Next year is a World Championship year again. Every 2 years is a World Championship, and we expect to be over 50 nations in the World Championship.
Do you do this personally?
When I have a chance. The problem is that in the U.S., obviously, I'm putting on most of the contests, so I don't have much time to compete. So I have competed in some of the international events when the opportunity has lent itself. I enjoy it a lot. I mean, obviously, I'm now anywhere from 40 to 50 years older than everybody else, unless it's in the Masters. I competed we had a team Masters World Championship during the World Championship last year, and then maybe they'll do it again, and maybe they'll expand the Masters portion of it. But it was basically the world team which I was on against Russia, against Asia, and against Europe. And we got second to Russia. We got second in Russia, and I got second in my division.
So you're going to be turning 70 soon. What's your plan for your 70th birthday? What are you going to do?
I haven't decided yet, but I'll do something, I think. Maybe I'll do something, 2-inch dumbbells, maybe see how many reps I can do on deadlifting 172-pound dumbbells at the same time.
So you're going to take both at the same time?
Yeah, as few people as can lift one at a time, the field of people that can lift two is very, very small. Very few of the world's strongest men competitors could lift two at a time, and many of them cannot do one, but very few can do two at a time.
One in each hand, or are you going to do it with one hand?
No. One in each hand.
One in each hand. Okay.
At the same time, in other words, it becomes a deficit deadlift at 300 and what is that? 340.
Yeah, about 340 pounds.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not an inconsequential deadlift because the dumbbells are only center of the dumbbells are probably only like 4 inches above the floor.
So what's your message to people? Because you've spent a lifetime developing yourself to where you can do these feats of strength, and it hasn't diminished to any great extent. What's your message?
Well, I think the main thing is that you can't stay active, have goals, and try to improve. Because if you don't try to improve, you're going to go. I mean, there's just really one way. You got to try to improve and have goals to improve. Your goals got to be maybe a little more modest than they were in the past. But you need to have goals, and you need to keep striving for those goals. And if you strive for those goals, you will at least reverse some of the effect of aging. I mean, I can tell now that if I don't do anything for some period of time and stuff like that, you lose your muscle tone and your strength much faster than you did at a much younger age. And I can tell that that's definitely a difference. I really realize that there is really no time to waste now. If you want to stay in shape, you had to do it because you you lose it much faster. But it's not, and never too late to start either. I mean, I have clients I work with that are 50, 60 years old and haven't done much for years and years and years, and they get strong fast.
Well, it's been a pleasure to interview you today, and we've learned a lot, I think, about different components of not only your life, but when you hear someone such as yourself that's so motivated to stay fit and strong and with such dedication, it gives encouragement to other people who are watching this, that you're never too old and that you can keep striving to get better and to improve. You may not be able to be as strong as you were or as fit as you were when you were in your 20s, but having said that, most 20-year-olds, most 30-year-olds can't do what you do. So that's hard to explain, but you're just the type of person that has pursued this all your life. And I don't think you're going to stop. Is that correct?
I'm not planning to stop anytime soon.
Okay, very good. Well, we got to have an opportunity to talk to Haugen today, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And from his explanation of his lifestyle, I hope others will continue to live that ageless lifestyle that we talk about all the time. Thank you, Mr. Haugen. Great having you.
Hey, thank you, George.
Take care.